Welcome to Minecraft's 1.22 update. In this video, we are going to be building a Tardis using the blocks from this brand new update. The end result, I'm hoping, will look something like this Tardis that I built quite a while ago now. But who knows what we're going to end up with. So let's begin. Firstly, let's create a command. So all command block outputs will not come up on the screen and look all spammy. Our next step is going to be to build the TARDIS exterior. So we're going to grab our trusty banners and some dies and the field masonry pattern like always, and we're going to create the single banner that we will duplicate 4 times or 3 times and then have it as our TARDIS. So I do have a tutorial for this somewhere on my channel, but this is just a quick rundown of how to make it. You do that, you do this, you do all the borders, you switch between the dies, and you create layers upon layers, slowly becoming what looks familiar to be the TARDIS. So add a final border around there, and there we go. This will be our TARDIS doors, and like I say, you're going to need 4 of these to complete the build. You'll also need chosen blue block of your choice, and a soul lantern. So let's take our command block and let's go ponder down here where we can establish where our landed TARDIS is going to be. Basically the entrance to our TARDIS interior and the sort of the fake entrance, if you will, because you will be teleported from this point to the actual TARDIS. I also want to establish where we're going to be building this interior, and I'm thinking let's use this tree as a base point up in the air, because we needed lots of room and we don't really want to be digging underground. This is just a creative test world, it won't matter too much. So let's save these coordinates down, and let's now go to the forest. Where am I gonna build me TARDIS? Right, so I'm thinking let's have it on the ground, under the trees, hidden away, kind of like the TARDIS would be if it landed in this forest. And it is a new land, it would be discovering. Whoever's piloting probably won't want the TARDIS being in eyeshot. So let's place the 2 blocks, place the soul lantern, and place the 4 banners around. But I also want there to be buttons around this one because it's sort of too small of an area and too obvious to put a pressure plate down. So I'm thinking buttons and then a command block underneath here. And thanks to Bedrock Redstone, the pulse will go through the block and into the command block. So you're going to have to punch on this TARDIS to activate the button to get teleported. But you could almost be holding a key, and that could be quite a nice role-playing thing if that was what you would rather in your Minecraft world. So we're going to go at /dp at nearest player to the coordinates I saw earlier on and made a note of down. Okay, let's test my genius, shall we? Look at that. We got on the glass block. Brilliant. Now we can begin to build our TARDIS. But we do need a way back, and I actually forgot to get the other coordinates. Oh dear. Boo. Place a button. No, place a button. And hey, I am facing into the block, but that's fine. So now what we can begin to do, get a sample of blocks that we can use to start the base of our interior TARDIS. Now this update brings a bunch of creative new white wood blocks, so we're definitely going to be utilizing those. I'm not sure exactly how. So let's grab a bunch of these white blocks from the pale oak and let's go see what we can come up with. Before that, let's just fix this command. So game rule, send command feedback false. So hopefully when we click on this button, get teleported. There's nothing on the screen. So let's go ahead back. And there we go, there's nothing there. So in your Minecraft creative world, if you're doing this, make sure to put that command and set it as a game rule so you have no feedback in the game chat and it won't look obvious that you've been teleported. Now I've just been tinkering around with this pressure plate for the return pad to head into the TARDIS exterior. And now I want it so that when you load up the TARDIS, you spawn immediately facing. So we're going to go this direction so that when you teleport, you are already facing the interior. You don't have to turn around. So there we are. That works still. And let's just change the location up a couple of blocks and around because I did change where the command block sends you. I don't want you landing on the return pad. So there we go. We land just in front of it and that all works. Well, now let's begin building the TARDIS interior door. I'm going for the pale oak door. It's a perfect shade of white for that iconic look. And we're going to use these stripped logs as well as a background. Looking nice. I really do like these pale oak, these white logs. Definitely a new thing to the game that will add so much more creativity. So this is looking like a good little base. As you can see, you walk through and you're outside of the TARDIS. And going back in, let's see, you can press any of the buttons and you spawn inside facing the right way. Lovely. So let's extend this kind of catwalk platform out here because we do want it to be a circular round TARDIS, but we don't want it to be just straight away and feel a bit small. We want it to feel like a bit of a large open space so you don't feel claustrophobic and enclosed. So those nice fences do well for railings. I'm really happy that we got a new wood type for this update because otherwise I would be quite screwed on what I could do. But looking at the selection of blocks here, I definitely want to use the resin bricks and the resin in any way I can, as well as the new flora plants as well. So this might be a very natural TARDIS made up of organics, similar to how they did the original Ninth and 10th Doctor's TARDIS, where their theme was to use organics when designing. So now's the hard part. I've got to build a sort of circle, and I don't want to go too big because this video will take absolutely forever and it won't look right because the TARDIS is not too small, otherwise it looks like a classic TARDIS and you can't really fit much in Minecraft. And if it's too big, it looks a bit foolish and it looks a bit weird. So this is looking like a pretty good size circle now. Let's just adjust a few of the corners. Don't want it to be too thick, and I want there to be a nice even space. So that looks like a good space. We got a one block center for the console. Now let's just lower it down so you kind of walk down onto into the console room. So it's not too flat. We want to add some depth to give it that nice curvy feel. I've made a white frying pan for my TARDIS, but I do like how it's looking and how it's turning out. And now I think I'm going to switch over to a different block choice. Let's use these new resin bricks to bring some sort of colour to this very basic colour scheme. I actually think for the floor, these baked beans looking blocks, these are, well, actually, I think they look kind of like coral almost, and like a nice soft stone texture. So these will do for the floor. Almost giving a cold aesthetic, but rather in this sense, giving a nice warm feeling as if the TARDIS is alive. And this will suit the organic theme I'm going to go down later on. So now the frying pan's baking some baked beans. Let's mark out where the center console is going to go. Now we're very limited what we can do in Minecraft with the actual console unit. And there is a classic where you place 3 by 3 blocks or just 3 by 3 flat, and then you add some buttons, levers, and a glass center. That's what everyone does. So let's try and do that with a bit of jazz and a little spin to make it unique to this update and to the Pale Garden, as if this TARDIS was grown in a Pale Garden. Let's just slap down some slabs to give it a nice curve as we continue this divot into the center. And for this center console, I really want to give it a Pale Garden feel. Like you just know what I'm trying to achieve. So let's use these brand new logs. and maybe have an altering pattern there with the stripped and non-stripped. And I like it because it shows clearly that this is something different. This is a an interactive element, almost like a crafting table with the crosses and the icons. This weird shape in the center is not just decoration. Now, if I add some pressure plates on top of here, we can hide the obvious fact that it's logs and perhaps maybe make it look a bit more mechanical and blend in. Now let's go and choose some more blocks. I am trying to include as many blocks as possible. So the resin is really going to be perhaps a better choice here. I'm not too sure. Well, I've added the center console and extended the platform around it to give it more of a give it more of a sort of run around space, and just so you're not falling over stairs everywhere. But I think now is a good time to possibly build out the walls, and let's get this little space enclosed. So what block are we going to use for that? Well, I want to use a grass block around the outer rim of the Tardis. This may seem unusual, but this will tie in with the organic feel and create a nice separation between the floor and the walls. So you've got that clear difference and clear separation, and it will make it feel taller, bigger, and more seamless. So I'm using the pale moss block, the brand new block, and I'm going to use regular dirt as well, because this has a brand new texture from the new biome. Now my next choice is very radical, but I want to use these resin clumps along the outer rim to break up that white, give it some detail, and make it look magical. Because I love how you can place this on pretty much anything. You can't place it on slabs, as you can see, but you can place it all around here. Never mind the lag, we can still place this down. And it looks pretty awesome. Does look like I've designed a very weird dartboard, but that's fine. Now I'm going to place these new flowers down. These are the closed eye blossoms, and I think these do open up, which would be pretty cool if they did, depending on the time of day. So during night time, these should blossom and become orange, prettier flowers, but I'm happy with these sort of placing them every other block or so around the console to give it a very, once again, a very organic and natural feeling, but I'm just going for detail points here because I want to avoid the TARDIS looking too bland. Let's just add another ring of moss. And then now let's add these walls. I'm going for a segmenting pattern of logs between the stripped and the barked, and I really like how these work together. So I'm going to use that texture to bring a nice soft wall wrapping the TARDIS around. Looks a bit like a weird Stonehenge at the moment. And there we are with the walls placed in. That looks pretty awesome and is exactly what I was going for. It looks like a very soft wall that will work to make the middle shine and stand out and just add as a nice background that's not too distracting but is sticking with the theme and is appealing to the eye. Now, no TARDIS is complete without the round things. I'm nowhere near finishing, but I thought I'd add them in now as I'm doing the walls. I've decided to use the stripped logs because they will blend better, but obviously logs do come with the rins, which are perfect for round things. Now, I'm saying round things because we never actually know what they are in Doctor Who, but they are referred to as the round things, so I will stick to that and call them that here. Adding those in, it really now feels kind of mystical, magical, and quirky. So that's definitely a good angle to go for, I think. Now, sealing off the walls with the pale oak planks really does sell it because it creates this separation of the wall, the floor, and the soon-to-be ceiling. This bit above the doorway, I want to be kind of a flat arch, so it's not an outrageously large looming bit as you walk in. It's just a nice little flat enclosed bit so that you feel like you're opening up into the TARDIS when you see the curved ceiling. I really am liking this now as it's coming together. The circles in Minecraft are always hard to do, but I think I'm doing quite well. I want to bring this up a bit to give some height to almost make it feel like a grand hall that you look above and see a lovely painting of me laying down in the sky with my finger pointing out. But this is a tricky one because ceilings in TARDISes are never really shown, of course, because it is a set in real life, and in Doctor Who, they won't pan up to just an empty set because you don't need to look at the ceiling. You can just kind of guess. Now, lots of builders also just guess, and the obvious choice would be a circle because the console room is a circle. So why would they have a flat ceiling? You would want to feel like you're in a big open space to continue this large circle theme. So I'm going to build an almost oval shape for my ceiling and make it a grand, lovely spectacle. Now, this clip you're watching right now is me discovering that you can place resin on walls. And oh boy, do I go mad with power because I noticed that it is perfect on the dark logs and it will create this lovely corner piece that before has been very difficult to do with just regular blocks. So let's get placing to the resin. Let's complete these walls and make them look lovely. Now I'm just building an sort of alcove platform on this ceiling to give it some more depth and to bring the ceiling in before I get too high because otherwise it will look like a really weird rocket. And thinking about it, I actually think this will be the perfect height for the ceiling. We don't really want to go any higher because it will ruin the sort of small TARDIS feel we're trying to go for. Let's have a fly down and let's go into our TARDIS through the exterior and well, would you look at that? It's looking lovely. Now, I do need to add some lights in somewhere, but we do also need to finish the center console and add the redstone. I'm thinking here that we have lights sort of wrapping around this middle section. I left it nice and large so we could do so. And I could create those spinny lights that we all love on TARDISes. And now it's time for the decorative foliage. So let's use these new pale leaves and the vines to hide these lights in the walls so they're not too in your face. And they also kind of look nice as the light peers through these leaves. I don't want to get too carried away before I finish the center console, so let's build up this middle pillar, and we're going to have a nice time rotor above. So let's mark out where this will go. I might even use these blocks as the actual decoration. Starting to take shape as a nice centerpiece. I just don't want it too blocky. There, I think that's pretty good with the slabs as well, kind of giving it a bubbly effect. So now I could build this middle piece. I also want these pillars made up of resin bricks to go around the console. I don't know whether I just want them by the door or on every side. If I have too many, it might be a bit cluttered, but I do really like how that looks. It kind of acts as a structural point, reminiscent of how the Ninth and 10th Doctor's TARDISes had the coral pillars. Again, going for that organic vibe. I know these are very straight and industrial looking because they're not very naturally flowing, but I think you can have some elements of structure even with organics to add that this is man-made in the woods, whoever this adventurer was that created the TARDIS. I also like the idea of a fence cage around the glass center console because it will add a sort of nice wrapping that again adds into the structural elements that you really overlook when I build most TARDISes. Of course, more leaves are needed on this plain canvas to add some life. It is looking very pale in here though, which who would have guessed with the Pale Garden update. I think I've had a total brain derp because I've forgotten that I can't use glass in this, so I'm going to use these vines as a centerpiece, as if it was the glass there. But I actually think these work better because they are shorter and skinnier and give that life that we were looking for. Now it's time to add in the piston activated console. Now this has always been tricky, I always forget how to build these, but I know it's possible. And I want to use the creaking heart as a centerpiece going up and down. I think that would be awesome. As it turns out, you can't move a creaking heart, which is fine. We'll come up with something else. I'm going to use a piece of tinted glass here. There we are. Now I think I'm excused for just this one block because I could not find a block in this update that would work. Now it's time to be testing my shoddy redstone. So we got a button activator feed here, and that should reach that redstone cable there, which should power the piston. Now I'm going to want to automate this, so when you press the button, it will have a clock that activates the piston for a minute or so. And I also want to extend from this button the spinny lights up top. So this is definitely going to be a bit of a challenge, but with a bit of tinkering and a bit of brain power, we can get this figured out. I bet you don't see this in every TARDIS video. Okay, scrap the button pulse idea. Let's switch to a lever. Okay, part of it works. Cool. Let's get this top all wired up. I think I'm going to have to change this so the pulse actually goes into the lanterns. Now, as I was up top, this pressure plate kept going off, so I'm going to change it to a button and hope that solves the issue, because it kept teleporting me outside of the TARDIS. It was kicking me out, saying, no, stop building more redstone. 12 hours later. And there we go. My TARDIS has been invaded. This is not okay. How dare you? Let's do a button test. Well, here we got the spinning lights going around, and they only go around once at the moment because there is no clock at all set up. I'm just adding in a light switch as well because it occurred to me you do probably want the lights on most of the time, and the spinny lights are just a nice aesthetic thing and not actually functional. So let's hook up this blue wire to the top and let's get that sorted. This looks a bit mad, but this is the countdown for when the TARDIS time rotor stops going up and down. And this should be enough time for it to complete its cycle. I've just changed it back to a button to give it a pulse. Let's run down, the clock's activated, and oh, that's a bit too quick. Let's change that. Let's push the button. That should have sorted it. With the purple wire all hooked up, what we should now be seeing is a spinny boy. Look at him go up and down. Oh, he's so happy to be a time rotor. Oh, aren't you just travelling in time? Perfect. And well, that completes our TARDIS build. So here is what the outside ended up looking like, but don't worry, the outside is not what we're here for. Let's head down and go have a look. As you're discovering the Power Garden, you see this mysterious blue box. You click to enter, and suddenly you are transported into this bigger on the inside. Amazing machine. You can see it is made up of organics taken from the garden itself, with a very handy light switch to the side you can click so you can actually see where you're going. The lights spin around and turn on, and you are invited into this open space. This space with very minimalistic controls, but that's because maybe the guy who created it didn't have enough time to do all of them. With this button, you click and you begin your journey into space and time, with the whole space erupting, the ceiling going wrong and not spinning completely the full cycle, so let's fix that. I did not forget to hook up this bit of wiring, no. You walk into the center and you click the ominous button, and the whole place erupts, traveling into time and space. It's a little bit laggy. but we'll give it a miss because it looks fantastic. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed the journey. Now, I may have skipped over a few little detail bits, but overall, I think it is a fully amazing working TARDIS. Working's a bit of a stretch. I won't put that in the title, but it is an amazing TARDIS using the new blocks from the Pale Garden. This video took a long time to make. It's probably not the most recent update, but I had a lot of fun making it, and let me know if you want to see this more or any other TARDIS challenges to do. Maybe even a better guide. Thanks for watching.